And good morning. So I don't have a presentation. What I wanted to do today was talk a little bit about who we are at Carbonsystems, what we do, talk about Microsoft and what we're doing for Microsoft, but then really engage everyone in the room to have a conversation about how can we leverage technology to help solve some of these energy management, energy efficiency, water management, or the overall umbrella which kind of buckets into sustainability, all of these sustainability challenges that face all of our respective companies today. So we'll start with us, Carbonsystems. We're a global company. We're located here in North America, in the UK, South Africa, and we're headquartered out of Australia. We built our technology back in 2003, originally to capture smart metered information, and we've run some large contracts for utilities across the world, reading their data and then providing financial grade reporting through to their larger corporate clients. So what does that mean? What do we do? We're a technology company. We're basically data geeks. What we care about is capturing data. So for all of our clients, if you can't get your information, how you're using your data, then you can't make a valuable investment decision. So that's really what we focus on. It's not glamorous. It's not flashy. It's pretty mundane at times. But for us, everything that we do is about how can we reduce the time and cost for a client to manage their data, their energy data, their environmental data, their sustainability data, their water data, their production data, so on and so forth. Now, if I stand over here, I'm not in that light that keeps shining in my face. So that's who Carbonsystems are. We're a software company. Microsoft, they're also a software company. And Microsoft selected us last year to manage their global energy and environmental footprint. Now, we do this across 610 locations, across 110 countries. They're a very big, multinational, and you can imagine their challenge for data management is massive. And they went out to market. We competed with all of the heavyweights of the industry, so the IBMs, the CAs, on and on and on. Finally, Microsoft did select us to manage their environmental footprint. So, small company, big challenge for us, big challenge for Microsoft. Why are they doing this? Well, for Microsoft, what they found is all of their energy and their environmental data was very disparate across their organization. So, they had all of their electricity data that might be coming from their meters or be on their billing or their bill pay providers. Then they had all of their fleet data for all of their vehicles. They had their fleet data for all of their planes. And then they're a software company, so they do a lot of services. They had a lot of executives that are always traveling around on planes, and they want to be able to understand how can they manage that type of information better. Then they have all of their waste data. Then they had all of their water data. And they had no way to capture all this information into a single system of record so that they could start overlaying a reporting framework or an analytical framework to understand what does all this information mean to them. So that was the challenge that Microsoft had. And I imagine for a lot of the companies in this room, that challenge is very, very real. I've got all this information, it's all over the place, it's in silos, I can't get my hand on it, I need to be able to set boundaries, set targets, set rules and alerts around how we can improve our consumption of this information, and it's very hard. So that's where companies like Carbonsystems come into play, because that's essentially what we do. We look to aggregate all of this information, all of this sustainability information into a single location. Now, just getting it into that location is a challenge in itself, but then we need to make sense of this information. So we need to be able to normalize it using key metrics that are relevant to an organization. So for a company like Coca-Cola, just knowing how much energy or how much water you're using isn't enough. You need to know that by the amount of bottles that are being produced, or the amount of sales that you have, or the amount of full-time employees. If I was a manufacturing company, I'd want to know how much energy I'm using by widgets produced, so that I can start making some real sense of what this information, what this data means to me. So, by and large, what I find, or what we find for larger entities, organizations across the world, is that all of this information is managed in a fantastic tool. It's made by Microsoft. It's called Excel. Right? Excel is, who here does not work in Excel just about every other day? Is there anyone that doesn't? Right? So it touches us. It's there in front of us all the time. It's effectively no cost for us. And it's really powerful for what it can do. However, when we start looking at an enterprise view for organizations, there's some fundamental flaws by managing this type of data in spreadsheets. One, it's not auditable. Two, there's really no control over that system of record, so you can't define any boundaries of what is right, what is wrong. Three, and this is the big one, is that it's prone to error. And that error isn't because the technology has errors in it. It's because we're using humans to enter the data into that technology. So what we try to do is to help clients transitions from this environment of managing all of this energy, all of this sustainability data in spreadsheets into a cloud-based environment, into enterprise architecture so that we can streamline the collection and management of this data so that we can improve the accuracy of that data and drive down the cost of our energy consumption, our water consumption, our waste usage, so on and so forth. So this is the challenge that Microsoft came to us with. It's great for Microsoft, they use their product, but they saw this was a real inherent challenge for them. They were being driven by stakeholders globally to do more. Now, Microsoft's a really unique example. They have two key, let's say, characteristics that make this feasible to them. That first characteristic is that they're massive. They've got a massive data problem. They've got data all over the shop. They've got 620 locations. They've got hundreds of employees, thousands of employees in 110 different countries. Trying to capture all this information was a really, really big challenge. So they turned to us and we helped them collect and manage all of this information. Why? They don't have to, right? There's no mandate that says that they need to do this. This is the other important characteristic of Microsoft. They have an internal mandate to manage their energy and their environmental performance. Did anyone see a press release that came out from Microsoft about 2 weeks ago? We're all sustainability professionals, right? We didn't see this. So we announced our deal of Microsoft back in February that, we're banging our chest that, yes, Microsoft selected us or what have you. That wasn't the real reason what Microsoft are doing. What Microsoft have decided to do is to impose an internal carbon tax on every business unit across their global operations, and they're using our technology to do it. So Microsoft recognized that we need to be a good environmental steward and we need to manage our environmental footprint, right? Now, we operate and we live in a free market, and if you don't have pricing signals, our market tends to fall apart. We don't know what to do if we don't have those type of pricing signals. So Microsoft are imposing their own pricing signals for their energy and environmental footprint, which a lot of companies, or a lot of people ask me, why are you called Carbonsystems? You do so much more than just measure and manage an organization's carbon footprint. And it's true, we do a lot more than that. But carbon happens to be this one common denominator that sits across multiple sustainability metrics that is really nice to measure performance against. So what Microsoft are doing is they're using carbon, they're using their carbon footprint to measure their own performance, and they've set a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2020, and they're using our technology to do it. So that's where we've come from, is this really complex data environment to how do we streamline the data collection and build some accuracy and auditability around that data. And we need to, so it's a complex environment, but we also need to have that commitment to do this kind of stuff. Now, some of us get that commitment because we have this big, either federal or state hammer that comes down on top of our head called compliance or regulation. And as an entrepreneur, I'm not a big fan of regulation. I think that it's much better when you see a leader in the market like this, like Microsoft, saying, hey, we're not going to wait for the federal government or the state government to tell us that we need to do this. We're going to go out and start doing it ourselves because we recognize that this is the right thing to do. Now, has anyone here heard of a voluntary report-in framework for sustainability called the Carbon Disclosure Project, or CDP? Show of hands. Anyone? So, you know what's happened in the last 3 years about companies, large companies reporting in, or how many people here report into CDP? Another show of hands. Okay, so a couple. What's happened over the last 3 to 5 years for this voluntary framework for companies reporting into this is they've grown from, out of the S&P 500, 3-4 years ago, 250 companies to 350 companies to 460 companies on the S&P 500 that are voluntarily measuring and managing their environmental footprint and reporting this into CDP. They're not doing it because of this compliance hammer coming down and saying they have to do it. They're doing it because they have pressure from their own external stakeholders that they need to do it. And they're doing it because they recognize that, hey, this is, in the world in which we operate today, this is just damn good business practice. So as we move forward in time, we've got more challenges for reporting our own energy and environmental performance. We're going to continually be pressured to disclose more information about how we are using our energy or what our environmental performance is, not only from our own internal stakeholders, so they might be the board or business units, but they might be external in terms of our stakeholders or shareholders. And then lastly, we might have compliance frameworks that will force us to do this kind of stuff. So I talked about who we are, Carbonsystems. I talked about what we're doing with Microsoft. What I really wanted to do is to engage in a conversation with you guys about how can technology help some of the problems that you might face in your entities today. So rather than putting up a slideshow, I thought let's just have a chat. So does anyone have any questions or any comments that they want to open up for discussion? Stone silence, huh? Yeah. It's a great question. There's a lot of stuff in there, right? So I believe that water is possibly it is our most valued resource. Human life can't be sustained without water, right? We know that. Yet it's also our most underpriced resource, right? So out of all the companies in this room, who knows how many gallons of water are used by your employees per day? Anyone else? Right, so I'm a technology company, and I tell you that I'm a data geek, so what I provide to our clients is that type of information to understand how much water we are using per day. Another question, who knows how much water the average American uses per day?